This latest transport route is also part of the broader Belt and Road Initiative. And that's where I picked up our conversation with Ravi Ramamurti. He's a distinguished professor of international business and strategy at Northeastern University.
Yeah, I think this project, like some of the other large projects that are part of the Belt and Road Initiative, reflect the enormous need for investment in infrastructure in many of these countries and the improved connectivity across the countries that are neighbors of China. We believe that the annual need for investment in these kinds of projects exceeds $1 trillion a year for the Belt and Road Initiative countries. And so the amounts being provided by China, well, they're still very large and much larger than what is being provided by some of the other international agencies, is still not enough to meet the entire demand. And so I think all the countries that are engaged in this very ambitious project find the funding available from China to be a very attractive part of the entire proposition. And I think Russia is no exception. And with the U.S. sort of turning more inwards, China is turning more outwards at just the right time. And countries that might have been reluctant to get that deeply involved with borrowing from China are more willing to do so in the current climate. And I think Russia is a great example of that.
Right, and looking outside land, there's also the Polar Silk Road. China is looking to the Arctic and using shipping lanes as part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think China is being very creative in how it is looking to connect China with the rest of the world. It is partly, I think, for strategic reasons of having alternative paths to connect with key trading partners if something should happen that shuts down one of the options. But some of these new initiatives are like trying to look for an Arctic route to connect to parts of other trading partners is very creative, and I think is of the scale that only China can aspire to carry out in today's context.
How does the Belt and Road Initiative fit into the United Nations plan to fight poverty?
Yes, that is one of the more interesting developments that's happened in the last year since the last forum, and that is the United Nations coming out quite openly and vocally in support of the Belt and Road Initiative and actually trying to map its own strategic development goals for the United Nations with some of the principal goals of the Belt and Road Initiatives, and trying to show that there is, in fact, a very strong positive connection between the two sets of goals. So this, for China, provides a certain degree of legitimacy and influence on a global stage, because China is providing the money but does not want to appear to be calling all the shots. And by getting this partnership going with the United Nations, it actually helps the United Nations raise some money and to provide some firepower behind their goals, because goals without any resources are not taken as seriously as goals that are backed by some resources. So I think China has been very adept at working with international institutions like the United Nations and finding, again, common ground that benefits both parties.
Ravi Ramamurti, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.